Let me explain to you how if it wasn't for Biggie's wrist and 2Pac's neck, that Jay-Z wouldn't have been able to write the verse that he wrote in the song Neck and Wrist with Pusha T. Check this out.
Black check. Life is like the cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Black check. To play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY, Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend. But more importantly, like I always say, if you're new to the channel and you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, do me a favor and hit the bell notification. I'm going to get right into this one. I had a friend of mine from Baltimore hit me up, and he asked me, he said, DELRAY, did you hear the new song with Jay-Z and Pusha T, Neck and Wrist? And I said, yeah. He said, what did you think about him saying that, people saying about if Biggie wouldn't have died, that Jay-Z wouldn't have been as successful? Jay-Z makes reference to that in his verse on that song. And he said, he asked me, what do I think about that? And I had to be honest with him. I said, I agree with Jay-Z. And most people would be like, what? You know, because like I said, if you weren't around back then or understand what it is, then you wouldn't understand where I'm coming from. But I'm going to give you some game right now. Check this out. I think they give Jay-Z the easy way out when they say that, right? Because from me, in my perspective, you can't say anything about in reference to Biggie, you know, passing away and Jay-Z not being a success if Biggie wouldn't have passed away without mentioning 2Pac's name. He said, well, what do you mean? It was the relationship that Biggie had with 2Pac that was the catalyst to give Jay-Z the success and to become the household name that he is today. Facts. And I'm going to break it down for you so that you understand how everything is interwoven to lead up to what happened and how it happened in reference to Jay-Z becoming the household name, as well as everybody that 2Pac had mentioned during that time, right? And just the neck and wrist, the wrist of Biggie and the neck of 2Pac. Listen to this. So check it out. So we know about 2Pac and Biggie's relationship, right? I'm gonna go back to Bowie State when I first met 2Pac, and I met Biggie that same night. Didn't know who he was. He wasn't on the radar or nothing like that. He had party and bullshit, but, you know, nobody was really checking for that from that perspective. 2Pac was on the roll, you know what I mean? Keep your head up and all of those things. They were out, and like I said, he tore the house down. He was the headliner and let Biggie come on stage and rap, right? Okay, so we in 93. Now, everything's good. It's all good. Relationship's cool. Now, the relationship for those two is already together. I don't know if Biggie and Jay-Z had a relationship as of yet, right? But what I do know is 2Pac and Biggie had a relationship. So now we understand where the disenchantment came in. The Quad Studio thing happens. You know, 2Pac, he's doing movies now. Juice is already out and so on and so forth. So he's blazing, doing his thing. Biggie has yet to really get his feet wet. Boom, the shooting happens. 2Pac's going to court for the criminal case in New York. 2Pac gets sentenced to prison after being shot in the whole 9 yards. Okay, 2Pac's in jail, feeling how he felt about it. That's where the disenchantment comes in, because he's thinking that Biggie had something to do with it, knew something about it, whatever he was feeling at that time. And so Biggie, you know, they got their thing going on, right? And so it started in the Vibe magazine, 2Pac talking about that night, how he felt, so on and so forth. So the beef or the situation is festering between them two based on their relationship, right? Now, you don't hear nothing about Jay-Z at that particular time. You might have knew about him in the tri-state area, in the New York area. If you were living in New York, you might have knew something about him at that time. Okay, cool. Biggie, while 2Pac's in jail, Biggie comes out, One More Chance is blazing on the radio, doing well, you know, people receiving him and so on and so forth. And then he drops Who Shot Ya? So he drops that album. You know, most people say, well, that wasn't related to Pac and so on and so forth. I disagree based on the incendiary lyrics and how it could be construed that, he was talking about Tupac in some indirect way at that particular time. I think bad judgment at best, right? If he said he wasn't, or they say he wasn't talking about Tupac, I think they knew that would strike up some kind of controversy or just get people thinking and talking and so on and so forth based on what Tupac was saying and so on and so forth. So now, here you go. Tupac gets out of jail, right? Now, based on the relationship between Tupac and Biggie, right? I tell the world, I come out with the story because I was there, right? About the night that Tupac and Faith met each other. Now, Tupac and Faith's relationship doesn't mean as much if Faith's not connected to Biggie based on the relationship that Biggie and Tupac had. There's really no interaction involving that. These are actual things that happen, not something I'm speculating. You understand what I'm saying? So based on, when people say, well, if Biggie wouldn't have died, Jay-Z wouldn't have been a success. That's speculative. What I just told you about Tupac and Faith meeting at the Hollywood Athletic Club, that's an actual fact, right? And based on Biggie's and Tupac's relationship. Boom, right? Now, I told y'all that same night, the word got back to Biggie, right? Based on what? Tupac and Biggie's relationship. Be it they weren't on the best of terms at that particular time. Okay, cool. Fast forward, right? Now, Tupac goes on the show with Luke, and he talks about having Faith on his record. Luke had a little show or whatever, and he talks about having Faith on his record. More so, the truth and fact that it got back to Biggie. Okay, cool. So there's another thing boiling based on that relationship. Let's fast forward. Tupac drops All Eyes on Me. We know what that did. Went straight to the moon. Okay, cool. Feelings of being, Tupac drops a few jewels in there, hinting about, niggas shot me, they 5 times, took in his smile, didn't die, and all of that. And one of the first record he put out, Ambitions as a Rider, right? So he drops that. So you kind of hearing, because if you know what's really going on, you listening. Now, here comes Jay-Z, right? With Reasonable Doubt, right? Now, Jay-Z drops Reasonable Doubt, and on that album, he has Brooklyn's Finest. Number 1, Tupac's neck, meaning sticking his neck out for Biggie, letting him, when I met Biggie and them, open up shows for him, looking out for him. We come to know what Tupac talked about later on in his last interview and how he used to look out for Biggie and so on and so forth. But I witnessed it with my own eyes before I knew what that was all about. I seen that, and then Tupac talked about it later. So now, Tupac sticking his neck out for Biggie, helping him out, giving him game, involving the business of music and all of those things, right? So now, I say Tupac neck, Biggie's wrist. Biggie's wrist, how? Biggie's wrist in Brooklyn's Finest. Where, once again, what did Biggie say? He said in Brooklyn Finest, right? If Faith had twins, she'd probably have 2Pac's. Get it? 2Pac's, right? Based on what most people didn't know at that time or have any reference point to deal with the fact, like I told you, Biggie had heard about it that night and Tupac had talked about it. And it was kind of buzzing in the media that Tupac and Faith had a relationship. Based on what? Tupac's and Biggie's relationship. Jay-Z comes into the picture now based on the fact that he's on Brooklyn Finest, right? And Tupac, knowing the guy that he was, you with that too? Okay, cool. You know what I mean? I'm going to get you too. You know what I mean? But right now, what I'm about to do, you know what I mean? Because Tupac had dropped that, hit him up, right? Boom. Because sometimes you can hear records, prior to it being released to the public and know what a person's talking about and so on and so forth. So Tupac hears that, right? Tupac comes, boom, hit him up. Crushing the game, right? Not really dealing with all of the other stuff, but dealing with some of the situation, and Faith and the whole 9 yards. Based on what? The relationship with him and Biggie. So now Jay-Z's involved by Reasonable Doubt and Brooklyn's Finest. Once again, Biggie's pen, I said. Him writing that verse in regards to Faith and Pac and having twins. Right? Okay, now. So, once you deal with that fact, now Jay-Z comes into the picture. Pac drops Hit 'Em Up. Okay, cool. Then we go down to September. Tupac passes away. But remember, here comes the relationship. That relationship between Tupac and Biggie spills into the relationship with Faith, spills into the relationship with Jay-Z. And now, when you deal with the fact that, okay, Tupac goes to Vegas, we know, gets shot, dies. Okay, now, here comes the Machiavelli album, right? Because Tupac, he had said something in one of the other records. That was the record that Nas had sampled that was on Ether, you know, when he said F Jay-Z on there, right? Boom. But now, Tupac, Machiavelli album comes, and in that skit in the beginning, he mentioned Jay-Z, Mobb Deep, Biggie, right? You even have Razkaz thinking, because of the record that he did with Chino XL, in which Chino XL made disrespectful references to Tupac. You know, Razkaz thought that Tupac was going to diss him and was waiting on it, because I think Razkaz's career would have been different if Tupac had dissed him, right? But Machiavelli skit on the beginning of the album, he mentioned Jay-Z. Now, Jay-Z's not known to a whole lot of people. Like I said, his record, Reasonable Doubt, only did 44,000 units in the first week. You know, and is moving slow. As of 2002, it took from 96 to 2002 to sell 1 million records. Let's be clear, right? So for the people that want to make that argument, if you weren't around back then, you wouldn't really know how I'm breaking this down to you. So now, boom, bam. Machiavelli, we know, after Pac dies, that record is just, solid. It's, you know what I mean, one of the greatest hip-hop records of all time, if you will. Incendiary, all of the things that, people could ever expect from him, or some of it you wouldn't expect to hear. Now, okay, we go next year, right? We go into March 9th, Biggie gets killed, right? People are not knowing that Jay-Z had did Love the Dough with Biggie. Double album. Tupac's album, All Eyes on Me, first double hip-hop album, Diamond the Whole Nine. Biggie comes, and his album comes out, boom. Double album, Jay-Z's on Love the Dough, and the record goes through the roof, right? There you have it. So most people don't understand that what could lead up to now, Jay-Z even making the reference, but people make the wrong. You can't say that if Biggie wouldn't have died, Jay-Z wouldn't have been. Wrong thing. It was Tupac's or Biggie's relationship with Tupac that was the catalyst that made Jay-Z a household name. It was through those relationships. Even for Faith Evans, the same thing. When you deal with the reality of what that was, that relationship with her and Tupac came about because of Tupac's relationship with Biggie. And so there you have it, neck and wrist. If it wasn't for Tupac's neck and Biggie's wrist, you wouldn't hear Jay-Z, or Jay-Z wouldn't have been able to rap what he actually rapped on that song with Pusha T. Your boy DELRAY, straight gang.